Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, so for those
Yes.
who will not be able to fit, okay, can you see my screen? Okay, I will share
Yes,
the
doc.
Yes, doctor.
link of the YouTube so that for those who are not able to fit in this Zoom account, just join our YouTube link. I will give it to your PMCH liaison officer. Please share in your group. Okay. So please, the attendance, please comment your student number and your name on the YouTube link, even if you're in the Zoom account. Okay. So for this afternoon, we will have demography. Okay. So one of the basic concepts of epidemiology is concentrating on the effects of demography on population and thereby population characteristics and the like. So this lecture is prepared by Dr. San Luis. Okay, and you will know, okay, demography-wise, your country, India, is considered as just next to China, which will, if India would not be careful, we're bound to overtake China as far as population is concerned, because China would have population issues of their own as well as a direct result of their one-child policy some years back. Okay, so these are the most populated countries in the world. China, India, followed by afar United States, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, why are we so keen on controlling the population? Why is it very important? Why is it almost always discussed, population in every country? Anyone?
Limited resources.
Limited resources. So you have limited resources. The land mass of India does not continue to grow, but the population continues to increase. It is not just the land mass. What else is limited? The economic power of a country is limited. Wait, my batteries. The economic power of a country is limited. Thereby, if there would be more people sharing a piece of the pie, then more would have to share those limited resources. Okay?
Poverty.
Poverty.
దానికి బరువు సమాజానికి బరువు నువ్వు చచ్చిపోయిన భూమిలో నిలబడేది అడిగిన బరువే బరువే అదే
Okay, so sorry about that. Okay. So given the reasons that we stated, okay, it's important that important distribution. Okay? Okay. So for demography, so we have two aspects. It has structure, it has dynamism. So structure is seeing your demography at a point in time. So it looks at your status of your population, number, and structure. So it looks at the age of the population. Is it young? Is it old? Sex. Is there male predominance? Is there female predominance? And as you have learned in your culture and gender, it's important that you have an equal, more or less, population of male and females for a sustainable society. Are they educated? Are they elementary, high school, graduate students? Income per individual households? Is it urbanized? Are the public utilities available? Etc., etc. As to dynamism, or it looks at things at a period of time, so it looks at your vital statistics. How many births? How many fertile women? How many deaths occur? Reproductive rate, marriage rate, divorce rate, or migration, the in and out, who's coming in the country, who's coming out, or are they transient? For example, in Metro Manila, people would come to Metro Manila just to work but will go home in nearby provinces such as Cavite. Or for example, you go into the Philippines not to migrate but to study, but eventually have plans to go back to India. So it looks at all those things. Okay. What are the sources of demographic data? Okay, so you have your population structure. So we will have your census, extrapolation, calculations, microcensus. Okay, and we have your population dynamics. So this would be birth and death registrations, location of residence registry, immigration registry, causes of death. Okay, for example, how do we know that you are studying here for medical education? You have your immigration papers, your papers with the school, your papers with the embassy, etc., etc. So those could be sources of demographic data as well. Okay. So there are codes. So your ICD-10 would tell you the causes of death. Okay. So 150, you don't need to memorize because these are all given and you have a table, a book reference to look at whenever there's death. Okay. And this demographic structure is usually presented as a gender structure. So sex distribution, sex ratio. In China, they're very much maldistributed because of the one-child policy. Of course, because there's one-child policy, most will prefer male offsprings because they are just entitled to one. Thereby, their male ratio now, adult population, has old single male population because the females are already married and they don't have someone to marry off to. And therefore, creates another problem of population. Because this current generation affected by the one-child policy, what happens? Only will be able to reproduce with a limited number of women. Remember our example way back in our culture and gender lecture. It's the females who have to be more abundant because they would have limited capacity to bear offspring because they could just bear offspring one or two. But the males, they could impregnate a lot at the same time. Coupled with the fact, what else? If you look at the demography, women are more inclined to study, to be focused on career, etc., etc., and tend to put off childbearing to a later year, which diminishes their chance of producing an offspring. And that is the current problem facing China now. And India may overtake China someday in terms of population because of this problem. Okay, so you look at female population, male population by age group, most importantly the 15 to 45, 59, because that would be the reproductive age. Okay, age structure. We will look at population by life years. Female population by life years. Dependency ratio, aging index. So the productive years would be the one when you're working. Of course, when you are studying and no work, you're dependent on your parents. When you age and you are out of work, you are dependent on either government, your family to take care of you. And that is also a concern for most who we will see later in the population pyramids, aging populations with no younger generation to sustain their economy because most did not bear children at their reproductive life cycle. Okay. Of course, we look at how race, how ethnicity is distributed among the countries or among communities. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So basic concepts of demography would rely on an age-sex pyramid. Okay, so usually this demonstrates the demographic structure of a society. And by convention, your horizontal x-axis should be life years of women and men shown. The blue on the men on the left, on my left, on your left of the screen, females on the right of your screen. So the basic unit of this category may be a single year or groups of more years. Vertically, you look at the y-axis and this is the number of persons of each age group. So if you change the axis, the vertical one will show the age categories. And females, on the right and males on the left. Okay, so there are different types. Okay, so know this slide. So there's a stage 1, which is an expanding population. Okay, so this is represented by a high birth rate. So there's a rapid fall in each age group due to also a high death rate. And we have a short life expectancy. Okay. Stage 2 is also expanding, but high birth rate, but your death rate declines in the middle age. Okay. Compared to stage 1, there's a slightly longer age expectancy in this kind of age-sex pyramid. Okay. For stage 3, you have your stationary. So you have a declining birth rate, but also a low death rate. And more people would live to the old age. Okay. And your last stage would be stage 4, low birth weight and low death rate also. And it will mean a higher dependency ratio because more people are reaching old age because we have longer life expectancy. Okay. Where do you think India would be in the age-sex pyramid? What stage?
Stage 2.
Stage 2? You consider still high, not low death rate? Okay. So how do you interpret this table? Anyone who would want to interpret this age-sex pyramid? What stage? What stage is this? What stage is this? This is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or stage 4?
Stage 2.
Stage 2.
Stage 2. Okay, so expanding. Could be a stage 1, high death rate, high birth rate. Slowly declining death rate, so it could be a stage 2. So between stage 1 and 2. How about this one? So this was the time when China instituted their one-child policy. So there were
Stage
around
4.
10 years where they had a contracting population, a small base and a wider middle. But they saw the negative effects of that policy And after 10 years, they removed that policy of just having one child. Okay?
I didn't understand that.
Google. Okay. This one is a more pronounced age-sex pyramid of China. So it's really worrisome because of your contracting this. Okay, and what will happen after 20 years? For example, if you will make this pyramid now, so a lot of people will be at the old age and a few will be at the workforce. So what will happen? You will have a lot of citizens to support, and that may break the economy, which is kind of happening now. Okay. This one's Japan. Can you interpret? And Japan's notorious for having no kids because they focused on career, etc. Such that, would you believe, in Japan, they encourage you up to 3 children per family. And the mother is entitled to 2 years of salary of your company with pay for 2 years. And that is how they encourage people to have babies. Up to 3 children. So
I
you
got
could
6 contacts like that.
you could have
Liza Arbella.
So you could have 6 children and yet get paid for 6 years just by bearing a child. But the problem is almost no one is getting pregnant in Japan because of a lot of reasons. High cost of living, they want to do career first, etc., etc. Okay. So in summary, so this is a summary table. So your age-sex population pyramid will look at birth rate and death rate. Okay. How it's described is if the population has an increase or a rapid increase or a slow or no increase. Reasons
Here's what I
stated
found on the
for
internet.
changes in birth rate and reasons for changes in death rate. For example, our recent coronavirus increased death rate in a lot of countries. And thereby, we will see in 5-10 years how our age-sex pyramids will be affected by the disease of your 2020 to 2022. However, even if you had a high death rate, for example, in the Philippines, lockdown was 2 years. So there was a population boom because people were at home, they are with their partners, so they get pregnant. So even if you have a high death rate, then you have a high birth rate as well. So it may also be, even if there's high death rate, it would be a stage 1. Okay. And we will have different population dynamics. So these are diversities in demographic situations across countries and regions, as well as within countries. So from state to state or province to province, even in India, there's differences in population. And the 2 driving forces behind this would be, of course, biosocial phenomena. So this would be the natural birth and death of people, and social phenomena, the natural ins and outs of migration. For example, I'm from the Philippines. You are from India. While studying here, you meet someone that you want to spend your life with. So what will happen? It's eventually you will stay here and live in the Philippines, or the Filipina will go to you as you go home to India. So marriage is one. What else could drive migration? War could drive migration. For example, in Ukraine, there's war. Of course, people will go out and go to nearby countries so that they could avoid war. Better opportunities, etc., etc. So a lot will drive social phenomena and the population to move. And it's very dynamic. Okay, as I have mentioned, this slide, so there's migration as you see. Okay, for natality, so what is natality? So, but live birth that occurs when a fetus exits the maternal body and subsequently shows any signs of life, whether a heartbeat, a pulse of the umbilical cord, or any voluntary movement. Okay, so this is usually after 42 completed weeks, so this is 294 days of gestation. So you will learn later in obstetrics, birth may be a single or one offspring only, multiple, could be twins or triplets, preterm birth, less than 37 weeks, or low weight, which is less than 2,500 grams. Okay. So important would be to calculate the birth rate, and it's the number of live births in a year per 1,000 population. So birth would be the number of live births over mid-year population times 1,000. We will know more of this as we go into rates and ratio as we study health indicators. Okay, so first, the total number of live birth is divided by the mid-year population of the referred territorial unit, and the outcome has to be multiplied by 1,000. So example would be the crude birth rate of Hungary. So for example, number of live births is 85,000 and the mid-year population is 10 million. So you plug in the values and you will get 8.5 as the birth rate. So the basic rule is that rates are related to at least one whole person, and thus the outcome has to be multiplied by 1,000 to get 8.5. In other words, 1,000 persons are producing 8.5 live-born babies in Hungary in a year. Okay, preterm, you just count the number of preterm per number of live births times 100. So for example, preterm birth rate is 7,225 in a population of 85,000. Then you get your preterm birth rate at 8.5%. The same way with your low birth weight, number of low birth weight infants over number of all live births times 100. So you just get the number of your low birth weight infants over the total number of live births, and then you will get your low birth weight rate at 8.4%. So for fertility, fertility is a childbearing capacity of the population represented by women between the ages 15 and 49. So fertility rate is a number of births per 1,000 women of specific compositions. General fertility rate would be age-specific fertility rate over and total fertility rate. So what is the general fertility rate? So that's the number of live births per 1,000, per 1,000 women between the ages of 15 and 49 years. Age-specific would be the number of births to women of a particular age in a particular age group. Okay. So we compute for your total fertility rate. So you just add your TFR of all your ages, age intervals. So that's the average number of children a woman would bear during her reproductive lifetime. Okay, so from biological point, so TFR that's greater than 2 would mean a growing population, and less than 2 would mean decreasing number of the population. Why? Because a mother and father would be 2 persons, and to be replaced in society so that it will not contract, you would have to have 2 children. Okay, so this would be fertility rate. So where would the fertility rate be high? So in the continent of Africa, and lower in countries such as Japan, Canada, Russia, etc. Okay. So mortality. So there are 2 basic types of mortality. So this would be death cases. So there's accrued mortality rate. So you just look at death rates in general. Specific mortality rate, for example, you will look at COVID-related, age-related, etc., etc. So there's age, sex-related, cost-related, life expectancy-related. Okay. So how do you get this? So like your crude birth rate, crude mortality rate can be computed for both genders and age group. So the age group under 1 year is a special number. So it's separately treated. So this is your under 1 mortality. So your crude mortality rate for ages between 40 to 49. So number of date cases of 40 to 49 over the mid-year population times 1,000. Okay. So there would be female related, male related, and you just plug in. So number of death cases for females over mid-year population times 1,000. And same way that you do for your male population. So infants would have your special rates. So you have your infant mortality rate. So number of infants deceased over number of infants under 1 year of age times 100. So that is your infant mortality rate. And other indicators of the level of health of the community would be mortality within 24 hours, within the first week of life, within 7 to 27 days of life, and 28 to 365 days of life. So it's further subdivided into 4 categories. And you plug the value. Number of who died 365 days over number of infants born in that year times 1,000. That would be your infant mortality rate. Same way, perinatal mortality rate, that's the one who dies within 24 hours over number of infants born in a given year. Postnatal, number of infants who died in the first 0 to 6 days over your same denominator, which is the number of infants born in a given year. Okay, neonatal, 7 to 27. Number of infants born in a given year times 1,000. And your post-neonatal, from 28 days to 365 days over number of infants born in a given year. Why do we need to separate? each would have its own reasons, each would have its own complications, hence would result to death. Okay, so in a nutshell, you look at fetal losses, infant deaths, less than 20 weeks, that's abortion, 24 to delivery, dead, stillbirth, so that's counted as perinatal mortality. Live birth within 0 to 6, within 7 to 27, and within 28 days to 365 would be the divisions. Okay. So fetal loss, okay, is defined as a total sum of fetal death cases and induced abortions, regardless of cause. So number of fetal death cases over number of infants born in a given year. Okay. So it could be spontaneous or induced. In demography, you do away with the induced legally regulated procedure, therapeutic or medical or other legal reasons. It's all in fetal loss. Okay. Maternal mortality. So this is also a special case of sex-related mortality. So this represents death cases of women who died during pregnancy and childbirth, including up to 42 days after the delivery, regardless again of cause. So for example, you are post-delivery 15 days after. You have an illness, but you will still go back to your OB because you have just delivered and you're within 42 days. Okay. The number is small because maternal mortality rate is computed per 100,000 live births. So the formula would be number of maternal deaths over number of infants born in a given year times 100,000. So for cause-related mortality, so demography is concerning only the main types of diseases, so motor vehicle accidents and suicide. For example, coronavirus-related mortality. Okay. So life expectancy. So it's the average number of years an individual of a given age is expected to live. If current age-specific mortality rates continue to apply, so every one has different experiences in its earlier life that might have influenced its mortality rate in a given year. So for example, in our lifetime, COVID affected our mortality rate drastically for the past 2 years. So we have different life expectancies. So this would be the average number of years a newborn is expected to live if current mortality structure persists throughout its life. Because of the gender difference, life expectancy is calculated also separately for men and women. So what could attribute? Why would life expectancy between males and females be different? Why would it be different between men and women? Anyone? What attributes to the difference in life expectancy? Anyone? What do you think? Who tends to live longer, males or females?
Females?
Why?
Male.
Why? Why females? Why do you think? Risk behaviors different, hormonal changes are different, etc., etc. And life expectancy is a hypothetical measure and an indicator of current health and mortality conditions. For example, why would females die? They could die of childbirth. So it will be a good indicator of how your health and mortality situations are in your country. Okay, so your population growth, of course, your birth rate should be more than your crude death rate. Otherwise, it would be a negative population growth and thereby have a contracting age sex pyramid. Okay, so that would be your demography for you. Okay, so just an assignment for you. So you answer this so that you will know some of the terms as an exercise. Okay? And you submit it through a Google Drive collected by your liaison officer. Okay? Who attended the HIV Awareness Day?
What, doctor?
Okay, I asked for the M attended that activity will get this for the, any questions for this afternoon? Okay, so I will meet you next year. We will still have one lecture and then we will have our first long if you're going back to India. Okay, I will